and the immediate surrounding areas are fumigated. 2, what measures are being undertaken by the government to reduce the risks truck drivers and turnboys pose to the people in Malaba town border and the surrounding areas? 3, whether the Ministry of Health has any plans to adequately equip Kocholia Sub-County Hospital with coronavirus testing equipment and staff protective gears. And lastly, number 4, what action has been taken by the relevant ministry or ministries to ensure that the frontline medical staff and other personnel manning Malaba border post are adequately trained on detection and handling of coronavirus cases? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
That was a very long one. Now, that one, of course, is referred to the relevant committee as requested. When is it likely that you can give a response, Honorable Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The response will be ready by next week sitting on Wednesday. We'll be ready with the response. And Mr. Speaker, I'll also be giving a statement this afternoon. So some of the issues that he has raised might be addressed in my statement this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That must have been Honorable Sabina Chega, is it? It's very difficult to recognize members when they have, I have to use the voice recognition. Now, let's go to the next one. Is the Honorable Olago Luoch around? Yes, come in, please. Honorable Luoch. Honorable Olago Luoch. Yes, proceed, Honorable Luoch. Sorry, Aluoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is Aluoch. Mr. Speaker, I rise to seek a statement regarding the failure of the Cabinet Secretary for Information and Communication Technology to gazette the Media Complaints Commission under Section 27 of the Media Council Act. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44, sub 2, sub C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation regarding the failure of the Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology to gazette members of the Media Complaints Commission after the term of the previous commission expired on the 6th of September 2019. Mr. Speaker, Section 6.1, subsection C of the Media Council Act provides that one of the functions of this commission is to facilitate the resolution of disputes between government and the media, public and the media, and intramedia. This function is performed by the Media Complaints Commission, treated under Section 27 of the Act. The term of the previous commission expired on the 6th September 2019, pursuant to which the Cabinet Secretary commenced and completed the process of identifying the membership of the new commission. It is not clear if the Cabinet Secretary sought the advice of the State Corporations Advisory Committee, but he prepared an appropriate Gazette notice for publication. But for reasons only known to him, this Gazette notice was never published, and he has not taken any further steps to facilitate the publication of this notice. The functions of this commission and other commissions under its docket can therefore not be exercised, hence a pile-up of unresolved complaints. Mr. Speaker, the failure of the Cabinet Secretary to gazette the membership of this commission...
Order. Honorable Lesonet, please take your seat. You are actually violating the social distancing rule, you know? So members should avoid getting close to each other physically. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the failure of the CS to gazette the membership of the Commission is an illegality and is incompatible with the Act. Honorable Speaker, It is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson to raise the following. One, does the failure of the CS to gazette the membership to this commission amount to an abrogation of its duties? Two, can the chairperson carry out an audit of other organs that the CS has failed to gazette under his ministry? And three, what sanctions does the chairperson intend to take against the CS for his failure to perform his duties? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, the relevant chairperson, tell us when you are able to bring a report.
Information, Communication and
That must be Honorable
Technology.
Kisang. Is he in the House? Okay, Leader of Majority on his behalf.
Next Wednesday afternoon.
Next Wednesday, perfect. So we go to Honorable Dr. Chris Wamalu, Member for Kiminini.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a request for a statement regarding the alleged demotion of our top scientist, Dr. Joel Tomia, at the Kenya Medical Research Institute. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 42-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee of Health regarding the alleged demotion of our top scientist, one Dr. Joel Tomia, at the Kenya Medical Research Institute. Honorable Speaker, Dr. Lutomia has been serving as the director of the Center for Virus Research, as well as the chairman of the Rapid Response Unit at KEMRI, which is currently the institution with the largest testing capacity and a top research facility for coronavirus in the country. Dr. Lutomia, with over 40 years of service and one of the top epidemiologists in the institution, was demoted for purportedly failing to submit coronavirus results on time to the ministry before one of the daily briefings. This is a matter, Mr. Speaker, of great concern, owing to the need to retain experienced medical professionals in the ongoing fight against coronavirus. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Health on the following. One, what disciplinary procedures were instituted against Dr. Lutomia before his dismissal? Two, what is the fate of Dr. Lutomia following his demotion, given the shortage of experienced medical personnel in the fight against coronavirus? Three, could the ministry confirm whether the reason for the alleged delay in the submission of coronavirus results was ever established and indicate what it was? Four, could the ministry consider the reversing its decision and reinstate Dr. Lutomia to his previous position as the director of the Center for Virus Research in view of his expertise? Four, what measures has the ministry put in place to ensure the staff working at the Research Institute are protected from contracting the coronavirus? I humbly request for ventilation, Mr. Speaker, on this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What did you say?
I humbly...
What is the reason for that? Because I thought...
Mr. Speaker,
so all these people
in line with your standing order number 1 is at your discretion. This is a matter of national importance, and it's at your discretion, Mr. Speaker.
Even these other ones were very important. The only thing...
But they never requested. I've requested.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. What is it, Honorable Duale? Then I can maybe give 2 members only.
Yes, he's coming.
No, Chair, we have agreed. We have agreed what the Honorable Wamalwa is saying, that when we are going to deal this afternoon with the motion on COVID-19 pandemic, that will give members an opportunity to discuss even on this matter. But, Mr. Speaker, if you read, unless you use standing order number 1, if you read the standing orders, you cannot comment on a statement. So this was discussed in House Business. So because we are going to have this afternoon, and Honorable Wamalwa is my good friend, even me, I want to speak at that time on this matter.
Maybe what I could do, yes, what is it, Honorable Wamalwa?
Question. Of course, I do agree with the Honorable Leader But I've requested. The other colleagues never requested, Mr. Speaker, because
Well,
it's a serious
I
matter.
see, first of all, let me be clear. Honorable Robert Mbui, what is it that you want to, is it on this one? Honorable Sheikh?
Yes.
No, I mean, we cannot open it up. The only thing that we could do is for members to add, in addition to what probably they would want, not to discuss, because you'll have an opportunity in the afternoon to discuss. It's not even a comment. There might be something that probably you think somebody should have added. I mean, a supplementary, yes. So what is it, the leader of minority? I would have...
Mr. Speaker, in fact, you've just taken words from my mouth. What I wanted to say is I remember in the past, the Speaker used to allow members to make further supplementary request for statement. Like if a statement has been sought, and then I feel that there's part of it that has not been brought out by the person seeking for the statement, then you can add.
Okay.
But it would be inappropriate, Mr. Speaker, this time to start making comments. Because
we will agree for the, let's start with Honorable Mbui, but they will not give, they will not discuss, they will not go into the meat of the statement. They will be probably making a supplementary thought that probably the committee should be able to put in, to take into consideration. So, Honorable Mbui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would only like to add onto his statement and say that we are dealing with very tough times, Mr. Speaker, and therefore, I would urge the minister to be very careful how he's handling the scientists that are dealing with issues of this coronavirus. So basically, this would be the wrong time for any demotions, transfers, especially because some of these people are highly experienced. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Ashiali, though you ended up discussing it rather than making a contribution to
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me first of all admit that Dr. Lutomia comes from my constituency, and I wanted to compliment and supplement what Honorable Amalwa has requested in the statement, and request that besides what has been raised, I wanted the chair to also add if KEMRI board was involved, because we know KEMRI is a corporation that is run independently, and this decision of sacking Dr. Lutomia, if the board was involved. And two, if the CS gave Dr. Lutomia, an opportunity to defend himself, because under the rule of natural justice, I think it's fair that someone who has served the government the way Dr. Lutomia has done, you give him an opportunity to defend himself, if that was done. Thank you, Speaker.
I can see there is a lot of interest in it, but please, we also have to save time. Let's see, Honorable Bunyasi, in just a few seconds, and the Honorable Sheikh, and it is over.
It will indeed just be a few seconds. I think what I would like, if possible, to have added to that statement would be, what was the instrument of the action to demote, as over the time the minister spoke? Was it a sort of fly-by statement? Had there been any written communication, as over the time that the minister spoke?
Okay, Sheikh, member for Mandera North.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Of course, I wanted to ventilate, but you've given direction. Nevertheless, I also wanted to ask in such a way that when the minister is given his daily briefings, we need, as Kenyans, to be told not only cases, but status of these cases. Are they hospitalized? What is the status? Because we only hear about number of cases.
Yours is completely off, Honorable member for Mandera North, because this is on a specific individual, but you are talking about the issue of COVID, which will be, you'll have an opportunity in the afternoon.
Honorable Speaker, you know, the reason for that demotion is about delay of results.
Okay.
Certainly,
Makes sense.
It adds up.
I agree with you. So, the chairperson, what do you have to say? I can't see your card anywhere. No, you have not placed your card.
You've given me here to ask. Can I supplement something on it, Honorable Speaker?
Okay. As he prepares, you can do a minute, but please, Sabina Chege.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think just to add on what Honorable Chris Wamalwa said, from a professional point of view, Honorable Speaker, you know that we are working under very difficult circumstances. So I would want it to, from the CS, when the chair gets the answers, to be able to give an explanation as to whether Dr. Lutomia did not submit those results and what time was he given to be able to submit the results between the time when he got the requests and the time when he was supposed to submit the results.
Okay. So, Chair, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And yes, Mr. Speaker, this is an issue that has come to the attention of members and the public. And I want to report to this House that yesterday we had a meeting with the CS and his team. And this was among the matters that I was to give a statement this afternoon. Though there are some supplementary questions that have come, might be what we didn't ask. I will quickly ask the ministry to add to what they submitted yesterday. And I hope it's going to be satisfactory. But just to tell members, because some of the things that we pick.
I hope you are not, in fact, what I just wanted from you.
Yes.
Now you have confirmed that likely in the afternoon you will be doing something to this.
Yes.
That is enough. You can now have your,
okay. Thank
free
you.
time in the afternoon.
Mr. Speaker, that's what I just want to say. We are ready this afternoon.
Very good. Yes, what is it, Honorable Leader of Majority?
Under COVID situation, we must follow the procedures of this House. This statement has been sought this morning. It's been sought this morning, and we don't want to have the answer the CS gave to the Senate, because I saw it on TV. And the member who sought the question must be given an opportunity to be there when the CS is answering the question put this morning. So, Chair, I don't think whether we want to circumvent the rule. Whether the Chair and the committee ask the Minister this question is not here or there. This matter came this morning. So I think the best thing is the Chair, if she will do it today, before 2:30 is okay. But I think it's better she asks for next Wednesday, so that she brings a very comprehensive, and the member can attend that session.
I think what would happen is, if the Chair is sufficiently prepared, and I saw the person who sought the statement, the Honorable Member for Kiminini, he seemed satisfied with it. So I think we could give it a shot, see how the matter evolves in the afternoon. Should there be issues that are not rushed properly, then therefore some time can be sought. We cannot stop chairs from being efficient. When they are efficient, we must applaud them, because always when they are inefficient, we are very quick to bash them. So in this particular case, if the chair is ready and probably is prepared, let us see what, because she says she's ready, and I believe her. Yeah. So, well, Honorable Amalwa, I think, are you comfortable with the afternoon, Honorable Amalwa? By the way, you should know that next Wednesday is probably the last working day for members of parliament if we are to go by the timetable that we set. So I think this afternoon should be okay with you.
Mr. Speaker, I have no problem, but
yes,
as long as the answers can be done in a satisfactory manner.
Let's wait for it in the afternoon. Okay, let's go to the Honorable David Ochieng. This is also another issue on almost the same thing. Let's see.
No. Mr. Speaker, I'm being told to ask about the burial, but that was already answered satisfactorily last week. Today I'm on something else, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44.2c, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson, the National Committee on Administration and National Security, regarding violations of human rights in the country during pandemic period, the period of coronavirus pandemic. Honorable Speaker, following the outbreak of the coronavirus disease, commonly referred to as COVID-19 worldwide, and the declaration of World Health Organization of the outbreak as a pandemic, Kenya has given the police force heightened public order powers to implement restrictions for management of COVID-19. These rules are contained in the Public Order Act and give police unprecedented powers of detention, arrest, and fining. But aside from this formal system, the police have also arbitrarily used corporal punishment and tear gas without any perceptible threat. It's against this background, Mr. Speaker, that I seek a statement from the chairperson, the Committee on Administration and National Security, to address the following issues. One, what measures are being taken to avoid violations of human rights and constitutional guarantees through unfair treatment of COVID patients, suspected COVID patients, forced quarantine, arrest as a result of the curfew, and during the period of addressing COVID-19? Number two, what measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that the police officers are protected from the COVID-19 while dealing with the public? Number three, what measures are the ministry taking to allow those with prior medical appointments in the city, in relevant counties like Nairobi, to access medical treatment where they are not able to hire or get access to ambulances? And finally, Mr. Speaker, what steps is the ministry taking to address the issues relating to criminalization and stigmatization as a result of COVID-19? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Nobody has shown any interest on this particular one. So let's hear what the chairperson, Administration and National Security Committee has to say to it. When are you able to present that statement? We probably will go to... Honorable members, I see members Is the chairperson there, please? And who is that? Is that the member from where? What do you want to, you want to contribute to this, or you want to respond on behalf of the chairperson? Okay, Honorable Kabinga.
Thank you, Chair. I want, on behalf of our chairman, to confirm that the committee is already doing something to assess the situation as far as the police is concerned, Mr. Speaker. We're doing it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I also communicate that we can have an official response to the statement on Wednesday.
Wednesday next week?
Yes.
That's okay.
What
is it, Honorable Member? Is that Honorable Jomo? Yes. Okay. It's easier to recognize you using some other features other than your face.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the
Yes, you have it.
I thank the honourable member for that very important question. And something has come up which maybe, as the committee looks into that matter, that they should also question about. That police are using this as an avenue for them to make money, especially enforcement of a system to wear masks. They are arresting innocent wananchi because they don't have masks. And we have been asked to wear masks when we are going to public places. They are going even to the gates of people and arresting them because they are not wearing masks. The police should be educated on what is supposed to be done. And when they arrest these people, they are going and putting them together in a cell in a way that they cannot keep the social distances. So I would like to urge the committee, as they investigate this, they should look into the question of corruption and extortion that the police is using in the name of ensuring that masks are worn by wananchi.
Okay. I keep seeing members putting up their... Is that the birthday girl? I mean the honorable member for Kandara. Yes, you have it. addressed under a different forum, but it's good that you've raised it. What is it, Honorable Commissioner?
Mr. Speaker, I know it's not the right forum, but I just want to join the Honorable Alex Wahome. Mr. Speaker, members of parliament play a critical role in the governance of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, it was wrong for anybody to have excluded the members of parliament from the list of essential service providers, and that is why members of parliament are suffering. Mr. Speaker, let's put our foot down. This is not a privilege. Let members of parliament be classified and included as essential service providers, just like in all other developed and civilized countries, Mr. Speaker. That is the only way we will avoid a scenario where the likes of Honorable Anap and Honorable Waruguru can be stopped on the road and be subjected to all sorts. I think this is the high time, through you, Mr. Speaker, and the substantive Speaker, that we address this issue as a matter of national importance so that members of parliament are included in the list of the essential service providers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That one is noted. I seem to have now, I think, who is that? Honorable Korea?
Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice into this from a very personal level. This morning, I called the county commissioner from Murang'a. Because yesterday, my own wife was subjected to humiliation at the same checkpoint where Honorable Waruguru was humiliated. She actually had to turn back, and she was going to my residence, which is just past the checkpoint.
Did you say to your residence?
Yes, and she had a pass.
Or to her home?
She had a pass, Mr. Speaker, and the point is that the GSU who are manning told my wife that kwanza nyinyi watu hawaheshimiwa ndio sisi hatutaki kuwaona. Mr. Speaker, I am not just a member of parliament. I'm a presidential candidate, and this is a future first reading.
I think we can only assist you in as far as you are a member of parliament. But in your other capacity as a presidential candidate, you probably need to negotiate with the IBC.
No, Mr. Speaker, I'm just wondering if they would treat a potential first reading in this way. What about mere mortals like a member for Kandera?
Okay, you are hard. You are hard. Honorable members, I think we are taking too much time on this. Is it by a yard there?
Mr. Speaker, to add to what the statement was sought, that the committee needs to look at also the aspect of what defines a home. You know, in the rural settings, the police are going into homes. You know, the rural homes is only a place where you sleep. The rest of the work that you do outside. Now, when people are outside their homes, the police come and arrest people in their homes, and they're saying that they're disobeying curfew because they're not in a house. In fact, the definition of a house in the rural settings that we come from is just a place where you sleep. So we've had cases where police go into homes, arrest people who are eating outside, arrest people who are sitting as a family to talk. So I think the police need to know when people are in the streets and when they are at home, because they are harassing and arresting old men and women and taking them, bundling them in one room for a whole night, notwithstanding whether the people have masks inside the cell or whether they are infected or not, and release them after 2-3 days.
Yours is a bit complicated, Honorable Bayaya, yes. Because yours involve the definition of whether a home is a house or whatever. I think the best thing for you is when the relevant minister will be appearing before the committee, yes, you should go there with that kind of an argument. You would easily pass it home better. Members, we cannot go beyond that. Let's go to the next order. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, reduction of publication period for a specified bill.
Is that the chairperson? What is your point of order, Honorable Pukose?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm standing here on a point of order, Mr. Speaker. Currently, as we face the challenges of the COVID-19, there is a bill that is pending before the Committee of Health on Kenya Food and Drugs Authority. Honorable Speaker, In the US or European Union, it is the FDA that looks into issues of authorization in terms of the new protocols, in terms of treatment, and even when we come to the use of the vaccines. In the recent media, you've heard of UK Oxford University stating very clearly that there is an intention to even bring in the vaccination trial vaccines for the COVID-19. This bill, Honorable Speaker, on Kenya Food and Drugs Authority...
I want you to raise the issue so that we can refer to the chair. But you're already debating, Honorable Bukosa, and you know it.
This bill, Honorable Speaker, is a bill that will be able to give us some of the framework.
So what do you want with the bill?
The bill has been hanging so long, Honorable Speaker. And there is no report that has been tabled here. I've approached the House leadership to ask them in terms of how can they be able to prioritize that bill. Nothing has been forthcoming. And Mr. Speaker, our role is legislators. As legislators, if we don't legislate on issues that are affecting this country, then we'll be failing our duties.
I think you have put your point. Now, is that the position the chair held, and what are you likely to do with it? We keep having a problem because we don't seem to have a card.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would actually ask the people managing these things to look at my report because it's not working. But Mr. Speaker, yes, we have had that bill for some time. We have had discussion with the honorable member. It's a very important bill. We had discussion with the stakeholders. It had a lot of interest, and it was suspended for 3 months to allow the honorable member and the ministry to agree on a few things that had been raised by the stakeholders. Unfortunately, the COVID came, and we have not managed to meet. I will fast track it, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that we are back on track.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's have, is it the chairperson, Budget and Appropriation Committee moving this bill? Moving this, I thought that should be the leader of majority. The order number 8, the reduction of publication period for a specified bill. Is it the leader of majority or Honorable Ishungwa, who seems to be very busy? Honorable Ishungwa, don't get confused at all. Please just proceed and move this particular thing, this bill. Please, I understand the situation you are in.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. I was consulting with the...
No, you don't have to mention names now. Just proceed. I know you are consulting. Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the procedural motion that, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 120, this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2020, from 7 days to 2 days. Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, this bill was published at the end of last week, following adoption of the report by the House last week on Wednesday. And considering, Honorable Speaker, as you rightly mentioned, if we are to proceed on the working recess of the month of May to work on the annual estimates, Honorable Speaker, we will need to approve this, have this debated, the appropriations bill debated and hopefully approved, considering also the number of sittings we have in a week, hopefully today, to have the second reading this later this morning and also the third reading this afternoon. Honorable Speaker, the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, as you're aware, from the report that we tabled and debated last week, has a number of things that would immensely help the country in terms of COVID mitigation measures, financing of COVID-related expenditure in the Ministry of Health and other departments, including security, Honorable Speaker. And more instructively, Honorable Speaker, even things that will help cushion Kenyans against the negative effects of COVID to the economy, specifically, Honorable Speaker, and that is why the Deputy Whip was consulting on the issue of pending bills. Honorable Speaker, you remember mid last year, His Excellency the President directed that all pending bills that were owed to suppliers and contractors in government be settled. And amongst the issues, Honorable Speaker, that you have seen being canvassed in the media, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of spending of 40 billion shillings
what was reported to be money that had been spent. But it's important, Honorable Speaker, that Kenyans to understand that what had happened is that it's only money that has been budgeted. Among us, the money budgeted in that figure of 40 billion shillings, about 13 billion shillings, that is going towards settlement of pending bills to contractors. Top among them, Honorable Speaker, are the suppliers that you saw demonstrating in Nairobi over the Correctional Services Department of Prisons, and also those of other departments, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, also tax returns, tax refunds, Honorable Speaker, that will be crucial also in cushioning corporates and other business people who are today retrenching workers, Honorable Speaker, because of the negative effects of COVID. And we hope that with this kind of cushioning from the funds that we'll appropriate through the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, many of these corporates will be able to hold a number of the employees that they would otherwise have retrenched. With that, Honorable Speaker, I want to request the Vice Chair, Honorable Lasonet, to second.
I can't get your card, Honorable Lasonet.
No, he's too tall.
I can see you. Never mind other circumstances that make me not see you properly. Yes, let's see you now.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to second this very, very important motion, Mr. Speaker, in terms of reducing the publication period of this supplementary appropriation bill, Bill number 9 of 2020, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Order. Who is this lady?
Mr. Speaker.
With a windscreen. Take your seat, please.
Mr. Speaker, between now and end of the financial year is basically 2 months. That is May and June, Mr. Speaker. And this money, Mr. Speaker, needs to be spent, especially, Mr. Speaker, in dealing with the issue of COVID-19, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you are well aware of the demand for PPEs, personal protective equipment by our medics. Mr. Speaker, you are aware of the needs of N95 in our medical facilities. They need them now. Mr. Speaker, even the groups which are vulnerable, whether in Kibra, Mr. Speaker, they need, Mr. Speaker, to promptly access this money from now, Mr. Speaker. Okay. And that is the reason, Mr. Speaker, that we are calling this House to support the shortening of this publication period, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
And Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of shortening, I also want to end my debate there.
You are making a request for shortening and you are elongating it yourself.
Yes, that is why, Mr. Speaker, I want to end.
This is something that can be resolved quickly.
Yes.
I don't see any
issue. So that we
issue.
resolve that issue quickly, Mr. Speaker, I support. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second.
So, honorable members, did you support or you seconded? You are seconding. So, I propose a question which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 120, this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2020, from 7 to 2 days. I hear you, Honorable Pukose. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding provisions of Standing Order 120, this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2020, from 7 to 2 days. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. And as of our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. What is, can we go to the next order? So that, I do not see what is out of order in putting a question. So let's proceed.
Order number 9, the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2020, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the Consolidated Fund and the application towards the service of the year ending on the 30th June 2020, and to appropriate those sums for certain public services, and purposes.
Very well, next order.
Order number 10, the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2020, second reading.
That is Chairperson Budget. Had you moved it? What is it, Honorable Ashali?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's now, it has taken us 1 hour since we started the business of today. And I am aware of your communication of allocating seats to members. 1 hour up to now, some seats are still empty. And yet we are going to a very important business, Honorable Speaker. I was going to request if you could have these seats replaced by some of our colleagues who are sitting in the other chambers.
Well, the only small problem is that I keep seeing members coming in and going out, so I'm not very sure whether these particular seats are actually unoccupied or they are coming back. Because I see seat 155, seat 192, seat 197, seat 214, seat 297, seat 300 and 315. Now, we could have a few members coming from other areas. I see there's somebody in 155 already. Have I mentioned that? So a few members, about 3 or 4 members can come in and we can slot them into those particular seats. Okay, so we proceed, Honorable Ishungwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I beg to move, Honorable Speaker, that for the second reading of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill. Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, as I moved the motion, the procedural motion, Honorable Speaker, we concluded the debate on the report last week and adopted the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, Honorable Speaker. And it is on the basis of that report, Honorable Speaker, that this Supplementary Appropriations Bill has been prepared. As I had rightly mentioned, Honorable Speaker, this bill will, once approved by the House, Honorable Speaker, and assented to by the President, hopefully by the end of the week, will go a long way in cushioning Kenyans against the negative effects of the COVID pandemic. Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, huge resources have devoted, especially to the payment of pending bills. Honorable Speaker, as you noted when we debated and the report by the Budget and Appropriations Committee, we have also taken resources, Honorable Speaker, from the National Assembly, huge resources, almost to the tune of 2.1 billion shillings.
Just a minute, Honorable. I can see there is a lot of crowding there. Please organize a way of members coming in without crowding. And even seat number 1, which is ordinarily occupied by the Deputy Speaker, can be allocated to any member of the Speaker's panel. So please organize that so that we can have a member from the Speaker's panel occupying seat number 1. But the rest, please, let's come in a more organized manner. But let's proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker was saying, upon assent of this bill, Honorable Speaker, I do pray and hope that the National Treasury will move with speed to ensure that exchequer releases are done in time for us to be able to benefit from what the House has done. Remember, we only have roughly about 2 months to the end of the financial year. We only have the month of May and the month of June for expenditure to be expended for this financial year, Honorable Speaker. But as I mentioned, it will help to cushion Kenyans. And Honorable Speaker, Kenyans are really suffering. You heard from the question by the member for Ugenya, not just issues of abuse of their human rights by the police, Honorable Speaker, although we have devoted resources to ensure that the National Police Service and the DCI and all other security agencies, including the NIS, have adequate resources, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that they enforce the curfew without harassing Kenyans. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, last night I got a phone call from a constituent who was complaining that he had given a bribe of up to 10,000 shillings at a police station to be released because he was arrested for contravening the curfew, Honorable Speaker. I will ask him, Honorable Speaker, one, we have an obligation as Kenyans to stick to the law and stick to the directives given by government. But two, Honorable Speaker, we should not also allow our police service to abuse the privileges and powers they have under the law to harass Kenyans, and anybody being arrested, Honorable Speaker, as members have mentioned earlier, should be subjected to the rule of law and not kangaroo courts that are ongoing everywhere around the country. Honorable Speaker, Kenyans are really suffering, especially because of the rising cost of food and other things like rent, Honorable Speaker. I was analyzing from my phone last night, Honorable Speaker, and I realized on average I am receiving between 30 SMSs to about 70 in a day, especially towards the weekend, and probably over 100 on WhatsApp. People asking for money for food, others for rent, Honorable Speaker. And out of all these cases, Honorable Speaker, close to 80 or 90% are very genuine people who have problems. We did mention in our report, Honorable Speaker, and I hope that this will be implemented by the National Treasury and other departments of government, that the social protection money, over 10 billion shillings that has been devoted in this appropriations bill, Honorable Speaker, will go to cushion those very vulnerable Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. And we must be careful not to just focus on the elderly, Honorable Speaker. There is a new class of vulnerable people, Honorable Speaker, people who only 2 months ago were employed, they had jobs, they had secure sources of income, but today, Honorable Speaker, they have been laid off from their jobs, they are vulnerable, they have no money for rent, they have no money for food, and those are the people, Honorable Speaker, you will hear from many members of Parliament telling you, SMSing them, WhatsApping them, looking for help, assistance, Honorable Speaker. We may not be in a position to help all the people who contact us, Honorable Speaker. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, I have also been confronted by some very interesting cases. One case over the weekend sent me a text at about 8:30, 1.5 hours after the curfew, and told me he has no unga. 3 hours later, at about 11:30, he sent me a WhatsApp message on the same number telling me gas imeisha. And I wondered, Honorable Speaker, whether he had just realized at 8:30 that he had no unga, and at 11:30 his gas was over. Therefore, there are also Kenyans who are trying to take advantage of this issue, Honorable Speaker, to try and solicit funds. But there are also very good and hard-working Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to mention a gentleman from my constituency who also contacted me over the weekend with a very innovative IT system, a gentleman by the name Jackson from Sigona, who is using his IT skills, Honorable Speaker, to develop systems that he's looking for help to be able to sell to counties and the national government in terms of management of the COVID cases in this country. Others, Honorable Speaker, are also being creative in a very negative way, and maybe also as a word of caution to honorable members. I got contacted by somebody last night, actually a conversation that began in the course of the day. And by evening, they were calling me on WhatsApp on video call. And when I received the video call, as I picked up the phone, the guy got into pornography things, pretending to be a lady. But then he started sending me pornography on video. And I covered the phone with my finger, the camera, whoever he is, Honorable Speaker. And when I covered the camera, Honorable Speaker, and disconnected the call, because I realized the camera had frozen, and I suspected from the conversation earlier he must be recording. And 2 minutes after, he sent me a message telling me, you have just gotten yourself into a trap, and I will be circulating this video. If you don't, I am a man, and if you don't pay up, or if you don't talk to me, I'll be circulating. And I told him, you can go to hell, you can circulate it, you can take it to CNN. I am not going to succumb to blackmail, Honorable Speaker. And maybe Kenyans and young Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, I would want to encourage them to be innovative in the way Jackson from Sigona has been innovative, Honorable Speaker, to develop systems with their IT skills that can help, even with digital learning, Honorable Speaker. The challenges that we are confronted with today, Honorable Speaker, as much as many of our children here could be benefiting from digital learning, Honorable Speaker, there are many back in our villages, in our constituencies, Honorable Speaker, who are not able to benefit from digital learning. And Honorable Speaker, I do beg that the CS Magoha, will look at ways that we can leverage on the skills of our young people, especially in IT, Honorable Speaker, to enable children in our villages to be able to learn from either their parents' phones or whichever other platforms they'll be able to learn, so that they are not disadvantaged, even as we lose out on the days of attending school. Honorable Speaker, let me not belabor much. We may, Honorable Speaker, be moving a few amendments that we have discussed with the Budget and Appropriations Committee in our meeting yesterday. And let me take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to, in a very special way, thank members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee who have sacrificed a lot of their time. Yesterday, Honorable Speaker, the whole afternoon up to about 5:30 in the evening, we were held up at County Hall in a meeting considering amendments to this bill and also the Division of Revenue Bill, Honorable Speaker, the proposed amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill, which we'll be tackling next week, Honorable Speaker. But let me thank members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, chairs of committees, a special mention to the Chair ICT and Chair Energy, who also created time yesterday to also appear before the committee to justify some of the amendments that have been proposed by the National Treasury, and hopefully we should be able to consider those this afternoon. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request the Leader of Majority to second.
Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I second, I was trying to ask myself, the back of my mind, what the chair was moving on a light touch. Was it the appropriation bill or something else? But let me now go to the appropriation bill to second it. And Mr. Speaker, this appropriation bill is prepared based on Article 223 and Section 44 of the PFM Act. And Mr. Speaker, let me make it very, very clear. To first thank the Committee of Budget and Appropriation for doing a good job and making sure that despite the challenges we are facing as a house, they were able to interrogate the various stakeholders and ask the House to approve last week the report of the budget and the supplementary appropriation report. And Speaker, let me also make it very clear, and I'm sure the Chair will agree with me, that this appropriation bill, supplementary appropriation bill, is a reflection of, or is to reflect the resolution of the House on the financial year 2019-2020 supplementary estimate 2, which we passed. So you can't introduce new things. I hope the amendments that will come this afternoon, Chairman, from various committees, must be in tandem with the report or the resolution of the House that we have passed. Mr. Speaker, in simple language, what does this appropriation, what does it entail? The amount of money involved in this appropriation bill, which we hope if we finish today, hopefully the President will sign, because he already signed the tax laws amendment bill, now is an act of Parliament. And I'm sure all the benefits that was meant to help Kenyans cushion them from the COVID-19 pandemic already has been translated into, following the assent to that law. So this supplementary estimate number 2 is seeking to address the following areas or issues. Any COVID-19 interventions. So the 40 billion people were talking about, where, you know, the minister was spending 1 billion a day, was just a fallacy. It's this afternoon, and after this is assented into, that the minister will get money to give it to other actors dealing with the COVID-19 intervention. Number 2, the money that we are going to deal with, the amount of money we are going to allocate through this supplementary estimate, will be additional funding to cater for salary shortfalls and foreseen and unavoidable expenditures that will come during these emergencies. Thirdly, there is an element of pending bills, about 6 billion, will go to pending bills, and more so to the correctional services. That is the Kenya prison. You have seen Kenyans who are demonstrating, and I hope before the end of the financial year, those Kenyans from across our constituencies who supplied the correctional services, their money will be paid. Parliament cannot act in vain. If we have allocated money for pending bill for correctional service and for those verified pending bills, both for correctional service and NYS, they must be paid because the money is here if the House approves this afternoon. Then there is a changes in the development partners funded projects because of the various development partners that fund projects in our country. A realignment was to be done so that based on the situation we are facing. And of course, finally, this bill is dealing with the rationalization of the budget to align it with the revenue shortfall. We are going to face, our GDP will go down, our revenue shortfalls will go down, the economic growth will go down, as you saw it yesterday, the minister saying it. But in a nutshell, to reduce the overall expenditure, 51.7 billion has been reduced. And this is more specifically the development expenditure, which will reduce by about, I think, 83 billion, while the recurrent expenditure will increase by 31 billion. That is essentially in terms of the numbers. So I think it is important that as we approve these resources to various sectors, whether to fighting, whether as an intervention in the COVID pandemic, whether it is for pending bills, whether it is, these monies must be accounted for. And I really want to urge the departmental committee of this House, who oversight these agencies, to make sure that each and every penny that this House approves and assented to by the President is made to use and value for money is found. The Speaker, I think it's a small bill. It's more of based on what we approved in the budget estimates. But I want to caution the chair of budget that this afternoon we will be watching you. If you bring anything that was outside what will not reflect what the resolution of the House on the budget supplementary report, then you better, of course, if you explain it well and if you give good justification, the House will agree with you. But traditionally and principally and legally, both the PFM Act and the Constitution, the supplementary appropriation bill must reflect the report of the Budget and Appropriation Committees on the supplementary budget. You can introduce things. And Chair, you have done a good job. I mean, you have got some very ranking members, like the leader of my minority. And I'm sure if we finish today, and this is...
What is your point of order, Honorable Alice?
Oh, she wants me to wish her happy birthday. That's not part of the... Oh.
I had given you, but you press it again. It doesn't seem to be working for you. Interestingly, you had spoken through it earlier. What seat number is that? I don't know now. You might have to come to this one here.
And I talk a meter away.
Yes, what is it, Honorable
Yes,
Ahmed?
sorry, Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect to the leader of majority, I think the way he put the question that this House will be watching the budget chair, it appears a threat. It could be interpreted to be a threat and intimidation on the chair of budget, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order for the leader of majority to do that, Mr. Speaker? Thank you.
Well,
Chair, you know, if you want to support your Tangatanga friend, you can do it outside, not in the chamber. What Honorable Ali is trying to do is she's trying to support one of our senior Tangatanga members. But what I'm saying, okay, let me withdraw. Let me withdraw the word watching. But I'm saying the law will be watching.
No,
the PFM Act.
But Honorable Duale, what is actually wrong with watching? I thought that is the business of every member, and
yes,
particularly the leader of majority to
yeah,
watch.
so as members will be watching, we'll be looking at the law, whether the chair will violate the PFM Act, whether he will violate the Constitution. That's our business. But Honorable Ali Sohome, happy birthday to you. And if you want to support your Tangatanga friends, I have no problem. Please do it outside the chamber.
I mean, Honorable Mishra. What is it, Honorable Mishra? Are you having an issue with the birthday issues?
He's the man who apologized to police.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. Tangatanga is not a parliamentary language or a word.
Wait, what? Now let's start afresh. What did you say?
No, Tangatanga is not a parliamentary language or a word. So can we be withdrawn immediate effect?
No,
because tomorrow we will make...
The Honorable
There is
Mishra,
a different... Yes, sir.
Honorable Mishra.
Yes, sir.
I am following you, and I only can get the issue of withdrawing, but I want to know what is supposed to be withdrawn so that I can... What did you say again?
You see, the politics is different than governance. So we should withdraw Tangatanga immediately. It is a government, we are governing in the parliament, not politicking. Thank you, sir.
Actually, I have not followed you at all. Now, unless the leader of majority has better ears, what are the issues? I will give you an opportunity, Honorable Ishungo. I can see you have been mentioned and you really want to speak to it. So, okay, Honorable Ishungo, what is your issue?
You know, Honorable Speaker, I have no problem with the leader of majority using or mentioning Tangatanga because that is an unbogable movement also of the Hustler Nation and like-minded Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, what I have a problem with is the leader of majority seemingly imputing improper motive on the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee.
In what manner?
Is a stickler to procedures and rules of this House, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, I do not know what the leader of majority is basing his insinuation that hopefully or maybe in the afternoon there might be things that could be done unless there's something he wants to do, but not the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, I would really beg that he withdraws anything that imputes improper motive on the person of the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee.
Okay, now, the one of Mishra, I didn't follow it, so I'm not going to pursue it. Because, the problem with Mishra is the kind of face mask he is using is completely... I think it is it's a soundproof one. We want members to be using only virus-proof face masks, not soundproof. Because, Honorable Mishra, I have really tried 3-4 times to follow what you are saying, and ordinarily, you are very clear. But today, the sound is not coming out, and I realize that your face mask is soundproof. Now, if you really have to wear a soundproof face mask, then you do it and you do not request for an opportunity to speak. Because then we cannot read your mind, we only can hear your voice. So unless the leader of majority can read signs, because I can see some signs from Honorable Mishra, the indomitable member from for Keses constituency. And I can see he's standing again. What you want to clarify something? Yes.
Speaker, Honorable Speaker, sir, this mask is from Rift Valley. So may not be hard in Nairobi, but it is Rift Valley, very special one. Thank you.
Now that is even more, well, Honorable Mishra says it's a local one, but the person who did it most likely did it with voice in mind, not the virus. But anyway, maybe it serves both and it is good. So, leader, what is it?
Chair, before a second, you know, even without the mask, it is always difficult to hear what Honorable Mishra is saying. Now with the mask, it has complicated even me. And you know the quality of the mask. Yes, it looks like it is a piece of a carpet. It is very thick. It is so thick. It is so that nobody can hear what Honorable Mishra is saying. But he's saying that I should withdraw the word tanga-tanga, which I have no problem with. But let me come back to the one of the chair. I'll be the last person to impute improper motive on the chair of budget. And Honorable Bandi will agree with me and the members who are in the 10th Parliament. I have seen more than 4 chairs of budget. Honorable Gindo, Honorable Mbau, Honorable Mutava Musimi. I think he's the 4th one. And he's one of the best, I can confirm. He's one of the best. Outside his competency, I can judge him the way I want. And I have no amendment myself. But what I'm only saying is that the House adopted the Supplementary Appropriation 2 report. This bill is a reflection of that report. So anything outside that report, then the House must be convinced this afternoon. So I'm only cautioning him, because I don't want him to go into headwind.
You know, the only problem,
And, Mr. Speaker,
the only problem I have with you, the majority leader, and the chair budget, is that you found it, in your own wisdom. The chair budget felt that you are the one who is supposed to second. I would have thought you really consulted, that you would even have thrashed any thought that there could be anything in the afternoon that is new, because this is something that the chair budget is proposing and you are seconding, so you must be reading from the same page. But anyway,
chair is not, because number one, it's part of the notes that I've prepared just to caution the House. But I think with those many remarks, including, and I think, Chair, next time you need to give people who are wearing heavy masks, specific microphones, designed for them, so that you can hear. Because you kept on saying, I've not heard what Honorable Mishra said, and he's one of the best performing members of Parliament. So with this, I beg to second.
Okay. Other members, so I propose the question, which is that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2020, be now read a second time. Now, Honorable Okello Adoyo, Leader of Minority, you want to speak to this? Yes, we will start with the Leader of Minority, definitely, and then I will come back to the rest of the membership. That is as per our standing orders and, of course, as per the rules that we made.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I support, if you listened to the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, you noticed he didn't have much to say regarding the bill. And this is purely because the bill is a translation of the reports that this House passed. And the exchange between the Leader of Majority and the chair of the budget is just trying to reinforce the provisions of both Article 221 and Article 223 of the Constitution. And it's clear that once this House approves the budget estimates,
or the supplementary budget report, then that report is supposed to be converted into a bill, and that bill is debated. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to go into the details of this appropriation bill, because all the issues that are covered in this bill we discussed when we were discussing the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. I just want to talk about two things. Mr. Speaker, number one is regarding the provisions of resources or supply of resources towards COVID-19. And I said it when we were discussing the report, that what we expected as a committee to come from the Treasury what we received fell short of our expectations, because only 40 billion, now you can call it 43 billion, because we added 3 more billion shillings, was targeted towards the fight against COVID. What stands out in this bill and what stands out in our report was that a significant amount of money has been provided towards payment of pending bills and also to help pay those refunds from the Kenya Revenue Authority. That, to me, is going to help in stimulating economic growth, which is on its knee. We have our economy right now, Mr. Speaker, is on its knee. Otherwise, the other amounts that are allocated for the fight against COVID, I want to again speak to the departmental committees. I have a problem, Mr. Speaker, that this House has not been giving enough attention in terms of oversight role. It is one thing to give resources, but it is another for those resources to be spent prudently, efficiently, and appropriately. Mr. Speaker, if you get back to previous parliaments, especially the 10th Parliament, 9th Parliament, you will find robust reports from departmental committees on amounts appropriated under each budget line. And we were holding cabinet ministers then, permanent secretaries who are the accounting officers, to account. Honorable Kainani is here. He will tell you when he was chairing the Defense and Foreign Relations Committee, we had a report in this House which indicted a cabinet minister, and he left his job because of that. We had issues of health. But right now, Mr. Speaker, since the beginning of this parliament, I am yet to see any single report from departmental committees indicting or exposing the rot in various ministries. Do you want to tell me that, Mr. Speaker, that since the 12th Parliament, that the government has become so efficient that all the thieves have left the government, that now Parliament appropriates funds and it is spent appropriately? So, Mr. Speaker, what I'm trying to say is that let the departmental committees, which have the oversight responsibility, and the Public Accounts Committee take their responsibility more seriously, so that this House executes its oversight function. We have just 3 main functions: that of legislation, representation, and oversight. You can also add appropriation. But, Mr. Speaker, this function of Parliament of oversight, I think we are not up to speed and up to standard as 12th Parliament. And therefore, Honorable Sabina Chege, who is chairing the Health Committee, the challenge is, I'm challenging her, that these amounts that we have allocated for the fight against COVID, whether they are resident in NIC, that is National Intelligence Service, quite a bit of money has been put there, and we know the opaqueness of this agency. But again, when we are convinced as a budget committee that this is in the interest of the security of this country, our role is to allocate the money and expect now the committee to oversight that particular amount of money. So, Mr. Speaker, that is what I wanted to speak on this bill, because a lot of almost everything that is in this bill we have discussed in this House. May you allow me, Mr. Speaker, to say that I know that my chair is going to bring some amendments. But the amendments that we are likely to bring will mostly be to reduce the deficit even further. In fact, I don't think there is any amendment that is increasing expenditure. We are just trying to manage the deficit, and that, I think, is in the interest of the people of this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Give a Honorable, was it Honorable Odoyo? And then I will go to members who are in other areas. Honorable Dongo.
Okay, well, I thank you. Mr. Speaker, firstly, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity, but again, on the same breath, delve into the fears that perhaps our majority leader is harboring. Being a ranking member, he must have spoken out of experience that certain times, even though this House moves in speed to pass very pertinent legislative agenda, at the end of the day, there could be other quarters that interfere with what has been passed by this House by introducing extraneous matters that were not part of the piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, as I support this bill, we also have to take cognizance of the fact that this is an unprecedented matter brought about by the emergence of COVID-19. But fundamental questions, Mr. Speaker, arise. We know that every Kenyan at the moment is paying for their own masks that they're using. And Mr. Speaker, we only hope that we are going, by way of this introduction of this supplementary bill, to cushion Kenyans against monies that they are spending at the moment to buy masks and other various PPEs. It is important that we realize that at the moment, Kenyans are really suffering, actually not feeding from hand to mouth but finger to tooth. And therefore, we must use these monies appropriately to salvage them from the current status that they are in. Mass testing is very necessary so that we can with certainty determine the number of people who are suffering from COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, we know that on a daily basis the Ministry of Health and certain times the President of this country produce certain figures as those who have been confirmed or confirmed cases, but that is based on those who have been collected, quarantined, and tested. But you can imagine the number of people who are also suffering out there that have never been subjected to any kind of test. And therefore, I would appeal that this money that we are passing perhaps this afternoon or a few days to come, that will help to carry out mass testing to the suffering people of this nation. Mr. Speaker, we know of those who've been isolated and those who have been forcefully quarantined. It is absurd that at the end of the day they are compelled to pay for staying in facilities that the government chooses for them. Let's hope that these monies will help Kenyans, including those who are indigent in various ways, to alleviate them from this kind of punitive measures currently employed by the government. Mr. Speaker, I come from Nyando constituency, and that is the constituency that I represent. Besides struggling...
Honorable, you have 1 minute and some seconds. In the meantime, let's have Honorable Gitonga from other holding areas and Honorable Odanga.
I thank you. Mr. Speaker, even though we are currently experiencing enormous amounts of deluge and flooding in my constituency, we also have to, in addition to being in evacuation centers, try to prevent people from close contacts and hence practicing social distancing. Mr. Speaker, I hope that this flooding Maine is currently experienced in the country will as well be considered in this supplementary budget. Mr. Speaker, there are those who are due to retire, and you wonder why the government would pursue retirements of civil servants or civil servants at this point in time. I would perhaps recommend that we add them a few more days to be in service so that they don't go back to the villages and expose our people to COVID-19. We also hope, just as my minority leader has stated, that these monies will be used prudently and that not in few months we are going to hear that there are people who have squandered these monies and hence giving DCI an additional responsibility. Finally, Mr. Speaker,
time is over actually.
I thank you. I thank you for giving me the opportunity, though.
Is Honorable Gitonga in? I don't see him. So meanwhile, let's have Honorable Chepkut. Oh, you are there? Okay, just hold in there. Honorable Chepkut, you can speak in the meantime. Because
Speaker, I arise to support, but I want to say the following, and I plead to Chairman for Health, Sabina Cheke, and Budget and Appropriation Committee Chairman, Kimani Chungwa. Minority Leader, I salute you. You are indeed committed in providing leadership towards the COVID-19 challenges in this nation. But Budget and Committee had mentioned to you that there is no money put in Moi Referral and Teaching Hospital in Eldoret. We want the highest resolutions machines. And I want again, since I come from Wazinkishu, Moi Referral is in my own constituency. Moi Referral is serving this country. Out of 47 counties in the Republic, we are serving 22 counties. And you locate a lot of money to other Odaya, Kenyatta, but there's no money in Moi Referral. I want you to move with speed and allocate money for Moi Referral, for expansion and high resolution machines and equipments, MRI equipments be put in place in Eldoret. I had mentioned to Minister for Health, and I want again, sports fund, those are grant money. They have more than 4 billion. We wrote a letter to Permanent Secretary, and I talked to Cabinet Secretary for Treasury, and he told me it is within the jurisdiction of Budget and Chair for Health. I want leader for majority to be very objective and be constructive. I want us to tolerate each other. Let's not quarrel in this house. I subscribe to unity and diversity. Chair, you are a good man. I don't quarrel, I encourage quarrels in this house. I want harmony. Let's not be very cheap. I don't want us to be petty. I want us to be mature and provide dynamic leadership in this nation. Let's support His Excellency as the President, because he's number one, the 5-star general in leading this country. There's time for everything in life. God's favor and God's grace surpasses all human understanding and instruments of power. I'm a majority leader, and I talked to Raila himself. He is supporting this country. Ruto is supporting this country. Everybody is supporting this country. I don't subscribe to petty issues. I'm above. I've had experience during my time. So I want my referral, Kimani Chungwa. Move with speed and put a lot of money in my referral, because we support more than half of the counties in this republic. I plead with you, Speaker, that my referral is key. With those few remarks, me personally, I believe in unity and diversity. Let's encourage spirit of working together. God says, what does it benefit a man to own the whole world and loses his own soul? Dreams cannot become a reality through magic. It takes God prayers, it takes sweat, it takes challenges. If you want a lemon, you must squeeze the lemon to get the lemonade. Therefore, I want to say that let's be consistent. Let's encourage commitment, networking, and of course, competence. And I don't want culture. Culture is killing this country. I want us to be disciplined all the time. Otherwise,
your time is over. I can see Honorable Chepkut in this era of COVID has been really reading the Bible a lot and also drinking lemonade to add vitamin C. Honorable Gitonga, and then Honorable Gitonga. Honorable Gitonga, please. What seat are you in? You probably might need to come to the dispatch area.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my surname is Murugara. You know, we got Kitonga Maanzo, and this is Kitonga Murugara. The problem is the K and the G, and knowing that you guys are from down the Rift Valley, sometimes it's difficult to make the distinction. So Murugara and Maanzo. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I rise to support the bill. It is vitally important that we now commit possibly the last phase of the funds to the government so that the government is able to render services to the people. These are extraordinary times. We got the pandemic that is bedeviling the country, and money is required as a matter of urgency. We've been told that about 40 billion has been set aside for this, and I think the reason we have not been able to see this money trickling down to mashinani is because we have not given the nod. And today, we should give that nod so that we are able to move forward. Out of this 40 billion, it's good to acknowledge that this House, the House of Parliament, has also contributed about 2.5 billion in forfeiting its travels, most of the allowances, etc., etc. As we fight the pandemic, it is important to remind the government, the executive, that we must at all times work within the parameters of the law. Because we have seen the curfew laws, we have seen the laws that control movement of the public so as to prevent the spread of the COVID disease. Unfortunately, it is important to point out that some of the laws that are being enforced have been made pursuant to old colonial acts, relics of colonial rule, and those regulations actually contravene the Constitution. And we will be bringing this to the attention of the relevant government agencies when we meet them, because we feel in trying to enforce some of these regulations, the rights of the citizens are being contravened. Once we give the government the money, it's important I point out that as I sat over there, waiting for the good eye of the Speaker to catch me, I have received a note from a leader of interns in the country who tells me that since they were recruited, they have not been paid. And I single out the TSC, which has recruited interns. I believe this is the money they are waiting for so that the welfare of these young people can be taken into consideration. They are paid whatever stipends they're supposed to get so that they are also able to live decent lives, especially during these very, very difficult times. Austerity measures, we've been told about them. We have accepted them as a country. We know we have had to reduce taxes so that citizens get some reliefs for their lives. But unfortunately, this House must stand to guard this money which we are giving to the executive, which money eventually will go to the counties. And we know some of these county governments are wont of trying to divert monies meant for projects to other useless ventures. Finally, once we give the nod and the President assents to this bill, as the House of Parliament, the National Assembly, we plead that monies be taken to all the agencies where we have pending works to be done, where the citizens are waiting up country to receive services from the government. Let me be specific that KERA is waiting for money so that it is able to work on the KERA roads, which are actually supervised by area members of Parliament. It is vitally important that as soon as we do these appropriations, KERA is also well funded, money is taken down, roads that have been dilapidated because of the torrential rains are actually brought to standard so that even those who live in rural areas can also feel that they are part and parcel of the government. And most important, it's important to talk about my own constituency because my own constituency is waiting for its roads to be fixed. The Raka is waiting for its roads to be fixed. And the roads in the Raka are quite different from roads in the rest of the Mount Kenya region because for one reason or the other, the tarmac level is extremely low. And I've always asked Honorable Ichung'wa that as we prepare the next budget, remember 20 kilometers of tarmac for the Raka. With those remarks, I beg to support.
Well, I really had to look out for the other gender. Really, we've not given them an opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, I'd put an intervention to draw your attention to that, but I'm glad you saw it, Mr. Speaker. I thank you. Mr. Speaker, I also want to support the supplementary budget. However, I want to really echo what was raised by the minority leader. He actually spoke for a lot of us and a lot of people out there, especially on the need for accountability and for this House to take our oversight role very seriously. Mr. Speaker, the reason why I'm saying this, in this House, we do quite a lot, and yet the impact is not felt on the ground. We have just allocated a very massive amount to fight the COVID tragedy in terms of intervention. Yet, Mr. Speaker, Kenyans are suffering. They are suffering on top of their already existing situation. They are forced to wear a mask, which of course we agree it's a necessity. But Mr. Speaker, I am so disheartened to see border riders, especially from my constituency, who cannot even make 100 shillings per day, are arrested because they cannot afford to wear a face mask. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated 43 billion, and we have seen all these private companies donating. Yet I have not seen a single donation in my county And I must thank Kenya Pipeline. It is the only organization that gave us a hand sanitizer. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, not even through the county, we have not seen. I can say my governor has not given a single face mask. And yet, we are here in this house approving huge money. Mr. Speaker, I want to say we should not the Budget Committee, not Treasury, take advantage of the situation to sneak in inequality in this budget allocation. Mr. Speaker, I have gone through the document. Actually, for the first time, I read item by item. When I looked at figures from development partners, Mr. Speaker, and I want members here to really critically look at it, there is a lot of inequality and equity. Most of those funds are going to very few areas in this country. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we don't want to be seen as a house that serves the interest of few. We want to have equity. We want funds to be distributed fairly to this country. Mr. Speaker, the vulnerable members of this community are suffering. In all these fights against COVID-19, I have not had a serious intervention going to people living with disability. I have not had a specific intervention for widows and for single mothers. Mr. Speaker, I'm a single member. I'm a senior member of those vulnerable group. I'm a single mother, and we must speak for them. Mr. Speaker, I really want to appreciate the effort that is being put by the government through the ministry, but we want to see more. Therefore, I want to urge my brother, the able chair of Budget Committee, to take cognizance of my concern. I thank you.
Honorable Kioni.
Beginning that one of the biggest, I know we are all talking about the COVID-19, and that's the problem we have. But as we get consumed by the COVID-19, in Daragwa we are being consumed by the locusts. And I think it is important, even as we do the supplementary budget, we should not forget the difficulties that this country went through and is likely to go through, given the reports that we received from the World Organization, that we are likely to be attacked again by the locusts. If that happens to our country, then the issue of food security will be badly compromised. And I think it is important that the government does prepare for the same. Equally, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we are getting used to this behavior, these guidelines, but I think we also need to look for ways of getting back to normal, or the new normal, in a hurry. And looking at what is being done by other countries, it is important that we get to testing and tracking. Those are the two things that will help us quickly get back to the new way of doing things. Mr. Speaker, I heard what the minority leader said, and that is crucial, and we've been exposed more than before during this COVID time. This parliament has been muted, and saying no to something does not make you become a bad person, but it gives hope to Kenyans. This is likely to go down as one of the parliaments that was completely dead on the issues of oversight. We are just here to rubber stamp. Of course, the person who takes the credit, everything is our majority leader. He has mastered the trade. But really, other than majority leader and minority leader, CCP hapa ni kama makanga. But we are just following what is being done, and we need to behave like a parliament. We are not doing anything. This oversight is dead. We just come here and all rubber stamp and say, like now, Mr. Speaker, the CS Treasury has published a bill. That bill is intending to take away some money that was given to the county government. And this is the County Allocation and Revenue Amendment Bill 2020. One, if you ask me, that bill is unconstitutional in my own thinking. But even having said that, we are likely to come here and again be told we pass it, and very unconstitutional things. And we should say it from the beginning, it is wrong. Mr. Speaker, we have given the national government 40 billion on these issues of intervention on the COVID. But if we are going to give them, because I'm supporting it also. But if what we got at the county level is what the national government is going to do, then we are going to lose this battle on the COVID. For example, Mr. Speaker, let me give an example of a county to date that has received only 15 PPE kits to date. Overalls, 10. Surgical face masks, 200 pieces to date. That's what they have been given by the national government. What they are calling the N95 mask, 1,000 pieces to date. Surgical gloves, 230 packets. Can you imagine? If this is the kind of thing they are sending to the county governments, we are going to lose this battle. We need to make sure that we actually, I believe that the county government, I've not been a supporter with the way they manage their funds. But they are the people who can actually now help us get to the people. They are the ones nearest. They are the ones in the infrastructure to know who are staffing, who require medical attention, where do they need to intervene quickly so that we reduce the pain that is there with Kenyans. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we should be very careful. We should not reduce funds going to the county government. And two, it has been said, departmental committees, please wake up. I know we are going to the liaison committee. I will say the same. If you are not oversighting, ask questions. Don't just come and tell us to pass funny reports here. But I think there is something that, and again, Mr. Speaker, this arrangement of 62 members, while it is the issues of COVID, we need to look for ways of coming back to normal very quickly. Otherwise, this bunge is coming to an end. They look like we are just in a press conference where a few people say, and then we okay and go ahead. I know we have to be careful with the guidelines, but let us look for ways of getting back to normalcy as quickly as possible, and we need to talk to the Ministry of Health and others to help us get there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What is out of order, the Honorable Pukwose?
Honorable Speaker, with all due respect to the House, I know the report had been tabled in this House, so we're just discussing it and repeating it over. I know maybe we are saying it in a different way, but still repeating the same message. Honorable Speaker, would I be in order, understanding Order 95, to ask that the mover be called to reply? The mover be called to reply, then we can be able to move. Because the issues of COVID, Honorable Speaker,
Honorable members,
will be discussed in the afternoon.
Honorable members, order.
Yes.
The Honorable Pukwose is perfectly within his rights to raise, and of course you are the ones who will make the decision.
Yes.
And I'm going to allow you to do that just right away.
Yes. Yes. COVID will talk in the afternoon.
Honorable members, just hold your horses. I have looked at the interest in this. And I am seeing right now we have got 35 members who are interested in speaking to this. So therefore, I think it is fair that members have voice on this. So I will overrule you, the Honorable Pukose. We shall proceed. And the next member who's going to have the mic is the Honorable Watch, who I'm told is in one of the other areas outside the chamber. He's here. The Honorable Watch, proceed.
Sorry. I want to thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the directions that you have given in this as I make my contribution. Indeed, this is a concern that should concern us as a House as I make my contribution, that even as we deal with the health pandemic that we are dealing with, the constitutional mandate of this House to debate matters as serious as budget-making process must not be subjected to this omnibus thing called Order Number 95 on the mood of the House. When it comes to matters of constitution, matters of budget making, under Article 95, there can never be a more important task and duty of this House than what we are transacting today. And so thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to make 2 points as I support this bill. First point I want to make, Mr. Speaker, is what we have put into this in terms of what is going into social protection. And Mr. Speaker, first let me thank the committee and the House for agreeing to forfeit some money that should have gone to a PSC in terms of the monies that were allocated to our foreign travels, and agreeing that this goes to our frontline health workers, they be ring-fenced, and the oversight be done directly this House. That is very important, and it goes into supporting what the minority leader has said about direct oversight. But, Mr. Speaker, in terms of social protection, I wish that we could have put in more money and more oversight into the 10 billion that is going into cash transfer and to expand the bracket of who constitutes the vulnerable. At the moment when we are talking about vulnerable people, there is a category of people in informal settlements, especially the youths, who are out of employment. We need to be able to know how are we going to protect these people if they do not benefit from what we are putting together in terms of the social protection. And lastly, on this point, and in terms of oversight, when we are talking about the data, there is a duty and a requirement that this House and whatever the departmental committee that is concerned, and I think that must be the Labor Committee, to require that the data be published and we be told who are the beneficiaries of this. Are we using the last Huduma statistics that we got or the last census information? Because if we don't as a House, this could be the next NYS and the next Ruaraka scandal, and I'm saying this based on the requirement that we do access. My point number 2 is on the issue of access to water. We have been told during this time, let's wash our hands, let us wear face masks, stay at home, keep social distancing. But in formal settlements, like my constituency in Mathare where we are, there is a lot of problem on how we access water. I want to find out whether we have put in enough money to the Ministry of Water so that we can be able to have water storage facilities, boreholes, tanks, and other things. And last week I had proposed an amendment to the tax law. And in my interaction with the majority leader, he assured me that this will be put in the finance bill. And I do hope that this can be done so that even as we tell people, put face masks, do this and do the other, we are able to put water. And lastly, as my time gets wind up, on the issue of mental health, last year we put in, and I think the Committee of Health, 100 million to Mathare Mental Hospital, which was removed. Let us take into account the mental health status of the nation, our frontline health workers, people in quarantine, people in isolation, in terms of how do we protect the mental health of the nation at this time. I wish we had put, or we do put, money into Mathare Mental Hospital so that we are able to expand and take care of the mental health of our people. My last point is on the issue of supplementary budget as a means of budgeting. Mr. Speaker, we must not replace the norm of budgeting through the main budget process and replace it with the budget of supplementary budgeting as a means. This is a way in which we are going to be able to encourage corruption and avoid the main budgeting process and enter into a process where we are now budgeting through the medium of supplementary budgets. I support.
The Honorable Kabinga, member for Mwea. And as the Honorable Kabinga contributes, there is the Honorable Rono, who is outside, and he should prepare to come and give his. Who do you want to inform the Honorable? He has finished. You are out of order. The Honorable Kabinga, proceed. The Honorable
Thank
Kabinga.
you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to support this bill. But even as I do so, Mr. Speaker, I want to caution that this is an extraordinary time when we need, as Parliament, to act in a more serious manner, Mr. Speaker, because this is the time that we are likely to invite irregularities in the execution of budgets in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know we are in a rush to ensure that we fund the necessary areas to fight COVID, but as we do so, then we need to act more seriously, and especially in the area of oversight, Mr. Speaker, as alluded to by the minority leader. Mr. Speaker, we are just about to discuss our third budget, and in every budget discussion, we talk about oversight, Mr. Speaker. We have not seen action. It means there is something lacking, and it is a high time that the Liaison Committee held a special sitting to ensure that you look at the challenges that the various departments could be facing in the execution of oversight, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in this supplementary budget, we have now provided sufficient funds to fight COVID in the short term, Mr. Speaker. And it is a high time that we now look at some of the vulnerable areas and ensure that the areas that we have serious interest, Mr. Speaker, are fully catered for. Mr. Speaker, it is in the interest of this country to ensure that people like border operators are well taken care of, Mr. Speaker, and in the money that we have provided, I am persuaded that this country can afford to be providing 10 masks to every border operator in this country to ensure that they are well secured, because it is in our own interest that they are secured. Mr. Speaker, as I was doing my normal checks in my constituency, I realized that these border operators are really suffering, Mr. Speaker. Some of them are using handkerchiefs as masks just to ensure that they are not caught by the police. Some of them are going a whole day without a single cent. Yet we are expecting that you'll be able to buy masks, Mr. Speaker. We have provided money. It is now high time that we ensure that the money we have provided can extend masks. It costs so little, Mr. Speaker, yet this is a group that can cause real problems in this country. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, let me also say that this is the time that we need to ensure that the executive in its execution of the budget does not violate any law, and especially PFM Act 44 Section 1, where they overspend and come to this Parliament in the name of that particular section. In the same way, the Constitution, Section 223, where they spend money outside the budget because it's provided for in the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. It is important that we also ensure that money that goes to pay outstanding bills are also checks. We don't just pay. We don't want coronavirus entrepreneurs to spring up out of this particular supplementary budget that we are providing for, Mr. Speaker. I feel strongly that oversight is an area that has diluted this Parliament to an extent
that we have even sold out our own respect, Mr. Speaker. And as I said, let the liaison office sit down, committee sit down, and come up with tangible suggestions on how the various departments can go back to their roots and execute the mandate of oversight in this country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Honorable Rono, has he come? The Honorable Kabinga, your contribution finds a lot of favor with this particular speaker because the police have taken it up to themselves and they're operating like the constitution of this country has been suspended. And this is true also for the people of Luanda, where the police have taken to breaking the legs of border boys every day, and there's no court that is listening to these people. So the constitution is still in place. The Kenyans must be protected. The police must know that their work is to protect Kenyans. The Honorable Rono, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Apparently, I'm not used to this mask, Honorable Speaker, because it's choking me, it's suffocating me, but I'll make do with it as I make one point. My point, Honorable Speaker, is more particularly my county, which is known as Elgeyo Marakwet. I want to support this supplementary budget.
What is out of order, the member for Mogoti? Yes, the Honorable Rono, you have complained that the mask is choking you, but this is the tragedy of the time. You have to bear with it and get used to it.
I'm within the social distance rule, Honorable Speaker. He is in fact miles away from me, and I request you to tell him to shut up, Honorable Speaker. In the meantime, Honorable Speaker, may I continue? I come from Elgeyo Marakwet, Honorable Speaker, where floods are wreaking havoc. And as we focus our attention on COVID-19, let us not forget to focus our attention on what is wreaking havoc. Death is death. Death through corona or death through floods is death. Let us salvage our people. The whole place, all the way from Pokot, Marakwet, and Keyo, where I come from, is wrecked by floods. I did not hear in the appropriation budget, the supplementary budget, where money was set aside to salvage this situation. Our people live in what we call upper area, at the escarpment. When the floods come, it actually washes them away. We want to change these areas to be for trees. There is no way, Honorable Speaker, trees are living comfortably more than the human beings. It's unfortunate. We have forests like Kaptagat Forest, Kipkabos Forest, where we can actually interchange the people with the trees. So we want these people moved from the upper areas where floods are wreaking havoc to where the trees are living comfortably. Honorable Speaker, we have also touched on the issues of masks. Masks are is something that we as a country can afford for every individual. It is so heartening to hear that there are people who have no masks, people who cannot afford a mask. Take, for example, a boda who carries an individual for 50 shillings and is expected to buy a mask for 50 shillings. How on earth can that happen? Can the government please provide free masks? That way, we will actually be somewhere fighting the coronavirus, other than just talking and talking and talking. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, is we have heard of Kenya Pipeline donating sanitizers in some areas. I don't know if there is a plan to that or it's only choosing where they want. It's only fair that they actually have to donate. They donate with some plan so that every corner of this country actually feels that donation. It should not be only donated for particular areas. It should be fairly distributed to everywhere. Otherwise, I belong to a committee by the name Public Accounts Committee. I want to warn the people handling that money that we are keeping our eyes open. We will actually want that money to be well utilized. Not a single cent should be misused. Honorable Speaker, I support.
Honorable Rono, you have spoken well for your people of Marquette, the people of Chesigon. Their case is a case that the government must take care of also. These are people who have died from a tragedy of nature. We will now have contribution from the Honorable Maanzo Kitonga. And as the Honorable Maanzo Kitonga contributes, the Honorable Chanda, who is out in one of the holding rooms, should prepare to come to make his contribution next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance to contribute on this very important motion. Mr. Speaker, it's clear that we are passing a supplementary budget which is going to help fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Speaker, there has been donations and there is an emergency team set up to deal with this donation. We are aware from the beginning, the first time we sat in this house, that Cooperative Bank first gave 100 million and quite a number of other organizations have been making contribution. And now the government of Kenya is also going to be a key, to play a key role to make sure that we fight this pandemic financially. Mr. Speaker, warn to people who are waiting to reap out of this kitty be put together by ourselves and the government. There was even a talk that Parliament was doing very little to fight this pandemic initially, Mr. Speaker. But now every Kenyan is clear that Parliament is doing its best. Parliament has the task to oversight this money, Mr. Speaker. We have the Committee of Health, which is very active. We have the Committee of Delegated Legislation, which I seated on, and is doing a lot of work on this particular matter. We also have now other committees to do oversight, and as a Parliament to do oversight, to make sure this particular kitty we are setting up today goes to do the right job and goes to serve the people. Mr. Speaker, the plight of people with disability has really been lost between the county government and its emergency kitty and also the national government. We need to have a clear guideline on how people suffering disability in the country, who are quite over 1 million or so, are supposed to be taken care of in these special times of fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Speaker, that's one team which has been abandoned completely and seems to be lost between the two sides, Mr. Speaker. As much as we are fighting this disease, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya has not been suspended, Mr. Speaker. And the Constitution having not been suspended, then we expect the rule of law to be followed. And I also want to commend Kenya, the government of Kenya, and the people of Kenya, for having done very well so far to contain this virus, Mr. Speaker. The people having cooperated, but there is one major thing we must do, Mr. Speaker. Prevention, Mr. Speaker. This can best be done by people keeping distance and, more important, wearing masks. Mr. Speaker, it's our duty as a House to make sure that every Kenyan is fairly distributed the masks, because that will help prevent the pandemic by at least 50%, supply of water, Mr. Speaker, and sanitizers to mostly the border people and the people in transport industry, because there are not many parts of the country who have clean water for people to be able to wash their hands regularly. And therefore, the provision of sanitizers is very key, and we have provided in this particular budget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware many other people want to contribute. I really want to support these particular provisions that we set aside money to fight the pandemic, together with other processes of government to go on. Mr. Speaker, most important as I finalize, is the money to pay pending bills, Mr. Speaker, to business people who have made supplies to the government and continue to do so, especially the prisons and other sectors, and even in the counties. Mr. Speaker, this is what will stabilize the economy, which has been very much been hurt by the pandemic. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Ochanda. The Honorable Ochanda. Honorable members, it is okay. I will, after the Honorable Ochanda has an opportunity, we'll see how to proceed. The Honorable Ochanda? Yes. Yeah, come to the front, the Honorable Ochanda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the leader of majority, plus the chair and the leadership of the House generally, that last week we passed the revenue division bill with the amendment from the Senate. And in that bill, we agreed that the money moves to the county funds. Then from the county funds, it goes to each county. Then from there is when the Nairobi Metropolitan Services is supposed to get their money. That's exactly what we passed. So I'm trying to remind the leadership that we need to check this again. The appropriations, supplementary appropriations bill is bringing in back 1.65 billion for purposes of Nairobi Metropolitan Services. In the report we passed, it was 3.7. I think this needs to be checked and to be harmonized, such that we are very sure that now Nairobi Metropolitan Services can get money directly from the Exchequer or Treasury without its money necessarily going to Nairobi County. That was one thing that I wanted to remind the House, Mr. Speaker. But the main thing that I wanted to bring around, Mr. Speaker, is that this supplementary appropriation is basically a COVID supplementary. It's a COVID supplementary. We really needed to check in terms of what amount of COVID is in that supplementary. I think this is the biggest problem that we needed to face. If you look at it critically, you realize that that is not it. But there's portions and there are percentages that go towards COVID. We are talking about 40 billion, we are talking about 10 billion and all those kind of stuff. But I want to remind the House and I want to remind the nation that there is need of why we normally collect data, why we have data, why we have census. Right now we have census, we are aware that Kenyans are 45. We are aware that Nairobi has 4 million. And from that data, we are also aware that 60% or so Kenyans live below $1 a day. So when we are giving out, distributing resources that we have, whether in the name of COVID or anything else, where are these 60%? Because at the moment, what we are seeing is, for example, 8 billion, the president directed all of it to Nairobi. So if 60% of 45 million are poor Kenyans, it means there are 27 million. And if you took it that entire Nairobi with 4 million were poor, then you take 4 out of 27, you are left with 23. So the rest of the 23 million Kenyans are poor. Why target 4 and leave 23? I think there are hard questions that we must bring around. That there are some 23 million Kenyans elsewhere. Our data indicates that they are poor, they are vulnerable, and our data indicates exactly where they are. Our data with the Bureau of Statistics knows exactly, or even what we call poverty pockets, they know. Even if Limuru is the richest, they know where there are some pockets that are poor in Limuru. What is happening that those, we are not using that data, so that my bond of poor, my bond of vulnerable, can get a percentage, can get a portion of this money. Bit of the other thing that I wanted to bring around, Mr. Speaker, is the whole element of accounting and oversight. There are those that we are going to oversight because we have passed them here. They are going to go to the departmental committees, they are going to go to the departments and ministries. But then there are those that are outside, and sometimes they are much more, they are bigger than what we have here. How are these things going out? Can we have, for example, the CS of health, every single day he's giving us an update of new cases, new discoveries, number of people in quarantine and all that. Can he also give us data in terms of how the resources are also going out for purposes of COVID? I think we really need to do this as a nation. So that little bits of things that are hard here and there are properly coordinated, such that we also, as a member of parliament, for example, my constituents, I need to know what is this, where is the support to Bondo from the national basket? Where is the support for Bondo from the well-wishers that have been contributing for purposes of this? I agree that we can have certain areas, concentration in certain areas. Like now it's been scientifically indicated that Mombasa and Nairobi has this kind of challenges. But we need to know how do we get out? So, Mr. Speaker, I think there's a problem. The last one, Mr. Speaker, is the whole issue of right now is COVID, and we are budgeting for COVID. In the last budget, we budgeted for contingencies and disaster monies. Where are those monies? Because there's a lot of things that are happening. Down in the lake region, the lake is swelling and is swallowing large amounts of land, large amounts of livelihoods. People are losing their livelihoods, they're losing their homes and everything else. We need this support get out to the disasters that were meant for them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Chanda, you have spoken for all these members. The Honorable Moses Kuria, you have a point of order. Honorable Moses Kuria. Give the Honorable Moses Kuria the mic. Yes, the system seems to have a problem. The Honorable Kuria, come to the front. The Honorable Tongi, I just saw you walk in, so you cannot talk about suffering. I saw you. I have got, the speaker's got eyes.
Speaker, I want to rise under Standing Order number 1995 and beg that the mover do respond. Thank you.
Honorable members, allow me to put the question that the mover be called to reply. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. The mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply.
Very well. Honorable members, order. Allow me to then put the question that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2020, be now read a second time. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the consolidated fund and the application towards the service of the year ending on 30th June 2020 and to appropriate those sums for certain public services and purposes.
Next order.
Order number 11. The Small Claims Court Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 4 of 2020, second reading.
Leader Majority.
Chair, I beg to move that the Small Claims Court Amendment Bill 2020, National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2020, be read a second time. This is a very, very small bill. It has only 3 clauses, Mr. Speaker, and I don't want to take a lot of time. And it is a bill that is part of the business laws that we passed. This bill just seeks to strengthen the framework of enforcing contracts. This bill has 3 clauses. One, currently, the amount that the small businesses can take them to the small claims court is 200,000. We just want to amend it to 1 million shilling so that, more cases can be finished at that cost. So from 200,000 to 1 million. 2, we have taken care of the issue of advocates representing these small traders. 3, because advocates are known, and with a lot of respect to the advocates who are sitting in this house, are known for adjourning cases for many reasons. In this bill, we are saying the adjournments can only be 3 adjournments, not more than 3 adjournments. And that is to make sure that Kenyans get justice. Justice delayed is justice denied. So it's estimated, Mr. Speaker, that as we speak today, 380 billion is stuck in commercial disputes in courts today. 380 billion. Out of, and I want the Vice Chair, the legal, to listen to me. Today, there are 380 billion stuck in commercial disputes in courts today. Majority of these, 75%, belong to small and medium businesses. These people of 1,800,000, that is where the majority are. So if we enact this law, what will happen? There will be speedy hearing and determination of matters that don't exceed 1 million within acceptable time limit in the spirit of the Act for the benefit of our small, medium businesses and traders. Number 2, a limit to the number of adjournments for small claims is in line with global best practice. And Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the Chair will agree with me that the judiciary themselves have written, and you can table it, that they are in agreement, Law Society is in agreement that we move it from 200 to 1 million. Lastly, the release of tied-up economic capital. Once we release this money, once adjudication is done faster, a lot of money, a lot of families, a lot of small businesses will be saved. So this is a small item that will help us. Now let me look at what does the World Bank says in the ease of doing business. It takes 465 days to file, hear, make a determination, and enforce a commercial dispute of a small claim in nature across the world. In our country, to file, to hear, to make determination, and to enforce a commercial dispute sometimes takes 3 to 4 years, 10 years, of about below 1 million. So I really want the House to agree with that we force this bill, we enact it, so that we help our people. I beg to move and ask the Chair to use less time. Honorable Cheptumo is a very good lawyer, so he might talk for long. I really want him to summarize so that we go to the other business.
The Honorable Cheptumo. Very well, the Honorable Leader of Majority. The Honorable Cheptumo, you may second. The Honorable Cheptumo, come to the front. So,
No, it's okay.
Now
It's
you
okay
have
now.
the mic. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second and thank the Majority Leader for the very able moving this bill. And Mr. Speaker, very briefly, let me say that the whole idea of these small courts, small claim courts, is to allow access to justice to the masses of our Kenyan people in a quick, responsive, inexpensive, and informal process. Mr. Speaker, this law was passed in 2016, and it was now amended, it needs to be amended now, so that it guarantees the right to access to justice and the right to fair hearing in pursuance of Article 48 and 50 of our Constitution, respectively. Mr. Speaker, the law as it is now denies the lawyers the legal representation of citizens. If they want to engage a lawyer, the bill is such that now it's not allowed. It cannot be, they cannot allow a litigant to appoint a lawyer to act for him or her in those small claims. And Mr. Speaker, that is in contravention of the Constitution, which guarantees Kenyans the right to access to justice and representation pursuant to Article 50 and 48 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the other issue I just wanted to say before I go to the specific provisions is that since these codes were established, it was meant to establish and actually in every sub-county and the wards. Mr. Speaker, these are courts that are dealing with small claims. The lowest it is now is 200,000 Kenya shillings. And this could have been done better if we were to have these courts established in our sub-counties, in our wards, so that Kenyans are able to access that service directly. But Mr. Speaker, let me go to some specific amendments which I think are very important because this House should be informed about those specific sections. Mr. Speaker, Section 12 of this Act provides for pecuniary jurisdiction of 200,000. There is a proposal under the bill to increase it to 1 million, as said by the majority leader. Mr. Speaker, the stakeholders who appeared before us, the LSK supported that, save for the fact that now lawyers should be allowed to represent parties in the courts. The Ministry of East Africa and Regional Development supported, but also legal practitioners, Mr. Speaker, also did not support this particular provision and proposal because they feel that 1 million Kenya shillings claim is not a small claim in our economy. And Mr. Speaker, the judiciary initially had given us the impression that they were comfortable with 500,000, enhancing the jurisdiction from 200,000 to 500,000. But Mr. Speaker, later we got further discussions, communication from them that they are really agreeable to 1 million Kenya shillings. But Mr. Speaker, as a committee, we had agreed on the 500,000. Maybe in the third, when you're doing the committee of the whole House, Mr. Speaker, we will be able to deal with that particular issue. The other issue, Mr. Speaker, which I wanted to deal with is also the issue of Section 20, subsection 2, where we intend to delete under the law, the bill, to delete Section 20, subsection 2, so that lawyers can now be, allowed to represent parties in those courts. And so, Mr. Speaker, by and large, I must say that the committee had enough time to look through this bill, received submissions from the public through the various stakeholders. And Mr. Speaker, we are agreeable to that amendment under 20 subsection 2 and also 20 subsection 3 of the same act, so that, Mr. Speaker, we have that amended as per the bill. Finally, Mr. Speaker, so that now I finish, is that Section 34 of that bill, again, Mr. Speaker, there is an intention to amend it by through this bill. And Mr. Speaker, I will be having amendments to that particular. Let me now say, Mr. Speaker, with those remarks, I beg to second and request members to support this particular bill. Thank you.
Honorable members, the Honorable Cheptumo, you must advise the leader of majority that lawyers are not fond of adjourning matters. It is their clients who adjourn those matters. But allow me to propose the question that the Small Claims Court Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2020 be now read a second time. Honorable members, honorable members, is it the mood of the House that we put the question? Honorable members, I now put the question that the Small Claims Court Amendment. Yes, honorable members, just 1 second. Honorable members, I put a question that the mover be called to reply. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Will as many of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. The mover reply.
Mr. Speaker, you know, it's good we follow the procedure because Omtata will go to court and we'll have problems. But I hope you have captured it. I beg to reply.
I now put the question that the Small Claims Court Amendments Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2020, be now read a second time. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Will as many of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next business. Leader majority, what is out of order? Very well.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Small Claims Court Act.
Leader majority.
Honorable Speaker, the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2, I'm not seeing the chair here, and there's an element that needs some consultation this afternoon on the borrowing. There's part of the bill, so I tend to step it down and maybe do it next Wednesday or this afternoon.
Very well. I direct that the business listed as number 12 be deferred to such time as the relevant committee will set it down for consideration again. Next business.
Order number 13, special motion. Approval of nominees for appointment to the Teachers Service Commission.
Leader majority.
Chair, I beg to move that the House adopt this motion, special motion. And I will not talk a lot because the report of the committee has been discussed extensively. The House has made a decision. The committee has not found anything to disqualify both Mr. Nganga and Madam Leila. That is contrary to the Constitution. That is contrary to the TSC Act. That is contrary to the Public Appointment Parliamentary Approval Act. So because the issue they raised on Mr. Nganga was on age, that is not found in the Constitution, is not found in TSC Act, is not found in the Public Appointment Parliamentary Approval Act. And in fact, Mr. Nganga is one of the few Kenyans, when he was the chairman of the Law Reform Commission, who drafted and participated in the TSC Act. So by being a TSC commissioner, he adds value. For Mrs. Leila, the issue was on dual citizenship. And if you read Article 78 of the Constitution, the only people, and a court has made a ruling, the only people who cannot be dual and still take state jobs are those serving in the defense and in foreign service. With those many remarks, I beg to move and ask Honorable Bandi, the leader of minority, to second.
The Honorable John Maddy.
Some very bad people who I think can do some good.